أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين وإن عاقبتم فعاقبوا بمثل ما عوقبتم به ولئن صبرتم لهو خير للصابرين واصبر وما صبرك إلا بالله ولا تحزن عليهم ولا تك في ضيق مما يمكرون إن الله مع الذين اتقوا والذين هم محسنون اللهم اجعلنا من المحسنين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ثم أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Once again, I was actually very torn about what I'm going to talk to you guys about today in our brief gathering, and I think I'll try to cover as many thoughts as I possibly can in regards to this passage in the next half an hour or so. But if it is left over, I'd like to, inshallah, another time come back and complete this discussion. I think you've heard many khutbahs, many talks, lectures even, or maybe even read things about the importance of da'wah in Islam and conveying the message of Islam to others. And this is not a small subject. It's something that's given a lot of importance in the Quran. Allah talks about it quite often. And if you think of the sunnah of our dear Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of his most common sunnah, one of the things he did all the time, essentially, if you look at his life, one of the summaries of his life is that he was a da'i to Allah, he called people to Allah. And that's all of the messengers, alayhi salatu wasalam. So it's not a small portion of Islam. This is a big deal in our deen, this calling or inviting to Islam. But a lot of times we leave that subject very general. Like we say we have to make da'wah, but we don't really dig deep and ask ourselves, what does that really mean? And what does it mean? How do I get prepared? Or us as a community, us as an ummah, us as Muslim men and women, how do we get prepared to make da'wah? What are the prerequisites of it? And then what are the different kinds of da'wah and how do you engage in them? And how do you as an individual, I as an individual, how do we contribute to the work of da'wah in our deen? So these are very important questions that have to be answered, and Allah did not leave us without answers to these questions. He didn't leave us without answers to these questions. But today, inshallah ta'ala, though I want to talk to you about very important and high things, they do come before that. There is a prerequisite, and it seems like an unrelated topic, but it is a critical thing that we have to address. You could even say if the work of da'wah is like a building, what I want to talk to you about first is the foundation. And in that foundation there are many ingredients. I want to only talk to you about one of those ingredients. And that one ingredient, basically you can call it brotherhood. Unity and brotherhood. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Hujurat, He says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Believers, true believers, are nothing but brothers. Ikhwatun. The word ikhwa, as some of you may remember the talk of Sheikh Abdul Nasir, ikhwa is different from ikhwan. Ikhwan is brothers, like a fraternity of brothers, or when you say to somebody outside, he's like my brother, or he's my brother, we're brothers in Islam. People can be brothers on a basketball team, or people that work in the same company say, that's my brother, or whatever. It's a show of like solidarity between people, unity between people. But ikhwa, the Arabic word, actually means blood brothers. Blood brothers. That you're tied by a blood relation. You have the same mother. That's the word Allah used to describe our relationship with each other. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Now that requires us to think very deeply, because brothers, blood brothers. How many guys here, brothers here that actually have brothers, physical like siblings? Okay. If you have brothers, you know this already. You fight a lot. Between brothers, there are a lot of arguments. You get into it. You can even beat each other up, get into a wrestling bout. It can get ugly. And sometimes I hate that guy, I can't stand you. Get out of my room. So brothers, between brothers, it's a natural thing to have clash. But the ayah is about unity. And yet Allah compares us to blood siblings. And what is that? One of the first implications of that is we are going to have fights. We are going to have arguments. That's part of it. But But you know what? Even if you're beating your brother up, somebody on the outside comes and starts beating your brother up. You know what you're going to do? Hey, that's my brother. I could beat him up. You can't touch him. You can make fun of your brother. You can make jokes about him. You can make fun of how short he is or how fat he is or whatever. Somebody else comes along and starts making fun of your brother. What are you going to do? If you have any sense of self-respect, you're going to say, hey, that's my brother. You understand? So even if you have kind of rifts in between, in the end, there is something stronger than any, it's this bond of blood is very strong. And beyond all the arguing and bickering, that bond has to be there. Now the reason I mentioned that is we say very easy to say the entire ummah, we are all brothers in Islam. The people in Egypt and the people in Indonesia and the people in Turkey and the people in Pakistan and Bangladesh and the people in Somalia are all brothers in Islam. Very easy to say that. But, the litmus test, if you actually believe that those are brothers in Islam, how much like a brother, like a true brother, sincere brother, do you act with the person praying next to you? Very easy to talk about the guy living in Turkey and say, those people are my brothers in Islam. Those people in Somalia, those Muslims in China, they're my brothers in Islam. Very easy. What about the brother praying next to you? What about the guy you give dirty looks to when you're walking out of the masjid? He's not your brother? What happened then? So we know what we do. We think of the big picture, and we easily forget what is right in front of us. The proof of whether we think this ayah is true for us or not is not when you think of the international sense of the word, and people get all up in roar. I'll open up a can of worms for you guys. Like, you know how in masjids across America, there's this huge debate about when to do, when to start Ramadan, and when to do Eid, right? For example, should we go global sighting? Should we follow this country or that country? Should we go local sighting? And if you go local sighting, which state should we go with? Etc. etc. There's all this fighting. And then some people argue, we have to have unity in the ummah, and that's why we have to pray the same way. I'm like, wait. Hold on. Don't bring up unity. Because if we're going to talk about unity, right now we're in a situation where we don't even have clean hearts towards each other, well, Eid or no Eid. Even in regular salawat, even in our regular interaction with Muslims, we have all these things that these judgments that we pass against the other Muslims, right? Now the thing of it is, I want to share with you, in this regard, I want to share with you a story. When I was in New York, in my college days, this must be the year 1873, I was in Brooklyn, right? I'm in Brooklyn, and I used to go to the masjid of Imam Siraj Mahal. You guys know what that is, right? So when I was back in the MSA days, before I could grow a beard, I knew Imam Siraj. Right? The thing to do was, if you want Imam Siraj to come speak at your MSA, you got to go to his masjid, and you got to go there like 3 o'clock before Asr, and you got to wait there probably until Isha, until he hopefully shows up that day, if he's not traveling somewhere nationally or internationally. And you say, Imam Siraj, come on, we've been waiting all day, bro, come on. Hook us up. Our MSA tomorrow. What do you say? Lunch. We'll get pizza. And he was cool like that, so he would come, right? So I go to the masjid, and we're, a bunch of us brothers from the MSA, we go, and we're sitting there waiting for Imam Siraj to show up. And we see this kid, who's like really skinny, white kid, sitting in the corner, kind of looking around. This is after Jumu'ah, by the way. Imam Siraj didn't give the khutbah, so we thought maybe he'd come for us, or maybe he'd come for Maghrib. So we spent the entire day waiting. We're doing our homework in the masjid, right? So we see this kid, he's kind of looking around. So we just went over, said salam to him, started talking to him. And he had a funny accent when he said, wa alaikum salam. We started asking, so, are you new to the area, or, live in Brooklyn? He goes, no, I live in Brooklyn, but another part. And so when I started talking to him, guess what we find out? He became Muslim earlier that day. That young man had taken Shahada earlier that day. And before that, you know what happened with him? He was a devout Christian, a very serious Christian. He was doing Christian studies and used to go to a church. But he didn't like something about the church. He said there was a black church, and there was a white church, and there was a Spanish church, and all these churches were very ethnic, and they only cared about their own. And even though they talked about God and humanity, they only really talked about their own people. And even within that, they would fight with each other. And my heart was like, how can this be the right religion? So I started reading the Bible for myself, and I realized, there are a lot of laws in the Bible that Christians don't follow. So they started looking into who follows the laws of the Bible. Oh, the Jews do. So he goes to the synagogue, and he started learning the Torah. He started learning the Torah. He memorized it. He learned Hebrew, and he memorized a huge chunk of Torah. And he was actually going to Yeshiva Institute in Brooklyn. Brooklyn looks like Tel Aviv, some parts of it. It's a very extremely Jewish community area. All the signs are in Hebrew and everything, right? So he's going there and he's studying Torah in the Yeshiva Institute. And you know what he says? After almost a year of studying Torah and memorizing parts of it and learning the language and being, these people, the leadership of the community, of the Jewish community, the Orthodox of them, they used to look at me as an outsider, as an inferior. Because in Bani Israel, they consider themselves the chosen, right? So it's very hard for them to say, no, you can't come, you can't convert or whatever. But even if somebody does convert, they kind of look down on them like, this guy's, we own the religion, he's got it on rent. He doesn't really own it. So they look down on him. And he said, I sensed it. I sensed that they look down on me. They judge me every time they look at me. They make fun of me behind my back. I sensed it. I didn't want to feel like that. So I started looking again. Because if there's a true religion, then one thing that will be an easy sign of that true religion will be brotherhood. That's going to be a sign of it. That these people, their hearts have become soft towards each other. Because if God has softened somebody's heart, then anybody else who believes also, there will be nothing between them but brotherhood. So he ends up in Masjid al-Taqwa. Thankfully, of the 300 masajid in New York, in the 5 boroughs at that time, now there's like 700 or 800 or something, he ends up at the right one, alhamdulillah. At Imam Siraj's masjid, there's a huge Yemeni community, an African American community, a Hispanic community, everybody knows everybody else. It's a very friendly environment. And so he just attended Jumu'ah prayer, just sitting there attended Jumu'ah prayer, and after Jumu'ah, or as he saw the people coming in for Jumu'ah on multiple ethnicities, shaking hands, hugging each other, asking each other how they're doing, he's like, this is it. He took Shahada, no da'wah, nobody did da'wah to him. He had looked up how to do the Shahada, what you have to say. He's like, yeah, this is it. And we're sitting there listening to him like, whoa. Thank God you weren't at our masjid, bro, because you would have kept on looking. You would have ended up some Buddhist temple or something. There is something to this. When we're going to call people to Islam, when we're going to invite outsiders to Islam, there is something we're calling them to that's beyond just ideas. Islam is not just ideas. The ideas that are true, ideas can be true and false. But the deen of Allah is more than ideas. It affects not just what you know, but how you act, how you live, what your personality is like, how you deal with other people. And if it is the true religion, then it's not just that you have the right kinds of knowledge and the right kinds of ideas, and you memorize the right kinds of words. That's not enough. But your personality shows it. And that in and of itself becomes da'wah. That in and of itself becomes a call to brotherhood. Or a call to peace and harmony. Because one of the most fundamental aspects of harmony is harmony between human beings. And our deen, it gives us that. It gives us, Allah says in the Quran, He says about the believing community, He says, وَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ. He put love between your hearts. He put love between your hearts. Now think about that. Allah said about you and me, the believers, that He put love in between our hearts. What is the only basis of that love? What's the basis? What is the reason for that love? Why would I love you? I don't even know you. I'm not from the same country as you. I don't speak the same language as you. I'm not the same age as you. I don't have the same profession as you. I have nothing in common with you except what? La ilaha illallah. That's it. Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's enough. And it's not any kind of like I like you or I don't hate you. That's not enough. Allah said He put love between us. He put that love. Which means it's not any weak kind of love. It's not just any kind of love. It's not just some average relationship. This relationship, I didn't create it. Who did? Allah did. Allah put that love. So if you and I don't feel like brothers, if you look at me and you're like, this guy, I can't stand him. And I look at you like, here's another joker. It's like, there's thoughts going on in our head. Then maybe Allah is not talking to us. Because Allah is talking to true believers. True believers have love. If we don't feel that about our brother, if we don't have that feeling, then maybe we're not the audience that Allah is talking to. Because that ayah is about believers. That ayah is about people who have turned back to Allah, who used to be at the edge of hellfire and Allah pulled them back. وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ مِنَ النَّارِ فَأَنْقَذَكُمْ مِنْهَا. هذا في الآية. This is the message of the ayah. You were at the very tip of the hellfire and He pulled you back. He brought you into this brotherhood, into this Islam. I wanted to not talk to you about brotherhood today. I want to talk to you about da'wah. That's what I want to talk to you about. But I can't talk to you about da'wah until we make, that's the building, what you need first? The foundation. And one of the parts of that foundation is our brotherhood. That's our brotherhood, you know. We have to be grateful to Allah that we're able to say La ilaha illallah. And we're able to say that. There are so many people that are not able to say that. And those who say that with me, man, I'm supposed to be close to them. But now I'll tell you why there's a deep, deep relationship between da'wah and brotherhood. Why those two things are very connected to each other. You know, if you've ever been on a mission, like maybe a project at work, it's kind of like a mission, right? You have to finish this task, and you're working with a team of people. Or you're traveling with somebody, or you're playing sports and you know, there's same people on a team. A lot of times, especially when there's a huge task ahead and you're making progress and stuff, you know what's really important for a team to succeed? What's really, like a team will not succeed. Those guys that play basketball, if there's 3-on-3 going on, and 3 guys are arguing with you, hey, you don't pass the ball, man. You ball hog, you can't keep taking the shot. You're gonna break anyway. Just pass it off. Why do you give me like these law passes? Why does the bullet pass to my face? Why every time? And they're arguing with each other, right? And the other team is synced together, they're passing, they don't even have to look at each other to pass the ball. And it's all like, it's like clockwork, right? Who's gonna win? The team that is arguing with each other, or the team that's synced together? The team that's synced together. The team that's like, even if they have a problem, they get together, bro, do this next time? Okay, I got you, all right, handshake. There's no arguing, there's no criticism, there's no cynicism. That's teamwork. The same thing happens at work or no? If you have a team that's doing a project, if you're arguing with each other, the job doesn't get done. If you have a job to get done, what must you have? Synchronization, unity, brotherhood. You have to have that. And especially when you do a big job and you're together, like, you know, you've seen like a close big job example, even though I don't like to give the examples from professional sports, is teams in sports. When they win a championship, when they win the bowl, when they win whatever, they're hugging each other, they're going crazy, we made it. There's this brotherhood between them, and forever they'll remember this is what unites us. We were brothers on the team. We did this together. You understand? The same thing happens with soldiers. When they go on, you know, when they go out in the military, not every soldier knows everybody else. And actually, this even happens in the United States military, for example. You have, you know, it's separated into branches. So the Navy is separate, and the Air Force is separate, and the Army is separate, and the Marine Corps, etc., etc. They're separate branches. And a lot of times, these different branches, they hate on each other. They can't stand each other. But if it happens that on the battlefield there's a Marine, and there's an Army soldier, and they end up together somehow in a difficult situation, right? And they help survive together. Doesn't matter if they're from separate places, what happens after that one mission? Forever now they are brothers. This is my boy right here. You know, he's going to call him every week and this and that. A bond is created when you're on the same mission. Now I'll come back to da'wah. One of the main missions of our ummah is to do the work of da'wah. If we're not brothers, that mission can't get done. You can't do it individually. Da'wah, you can do a little bit of da'wah individually, but it doesn't mean much. In the end, it's a collective effort. It's a communal thing. It's a communal thing. That job will not get done unless we're synced together. Unless we take advantage of each other's talents. And we don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of times there's a reinvention of the wheel. You know what that means, right? Somebody else is doing it and you do it over again. No, you need to build off of that and do something more. You know, that's what synchronization is all about. No two people are doing the same thing. People are complementing each other's efforts. That doesn't happen until this brother. So now I want to give you some idea, at least in these last 15 minutes or so, I want to give you some idea of some aspects of da'wah that are not often talked about. That at least, inshallah, helps us organize our thoughts about the work of da'wah. There's an ayah in the Quran that basically gives us a clue that there are going to be 3 stages of da'wah. There are going to be 3 kinds of da'wah, you could say. Da'wah, once again, for those of you who don't know the Arabic term, inviting people to Islam. The invitation to Islam. Okay. 3 kinds of people they're going to be. The most common, the first one, is going to be masses of people, the majority of people, the common masses, you can call it. Ash-sha'b in Arabic, right? The common people, everybody. And you know, at the level of everybody, you need to be able to deliver a message that anybody can understand. It's a simple message, it's a straightforward message, and it's a message full of good advice. It's good advice on how people should live, what they can do to make their life better. In the end, our religion, one of its most essential benefits, if you follow it, if you believe in it, if you practice it, it makes your life better. It brings peace to your marriage, it brings peace between you and your friends, it brings you peace in yourself, it brings you peace at the workplace, you're not, you're at peace with yourself and others around you. It brings you these benefits. And for the masses of people, what is needed? Good advice. That's the kind of da'wah that's needed at the level of the masses. They need to be shown the beauty of this deen and how it's good counsel and good advice. As I talk about da'wah today, I want you to remember how many kinds of people? Three kinds of people. But I also want you to remember that da'wah is 2 parts. So at every one of these levels, there's 2 parts. And those 2 parts are speech and action. For a da'i, for someone who invites people to Islam, they have to have good speech and also good action. If you have good speech and your action doesn't show it, like I talked to you about brotherhood and somebody comes up to me afterwards and says, get away from me, bro. I won't talk to you. Even though I call him bro. Right? If I do that, then my actions don't reflect my speech. It's useless then. It's pointless. It has no weight. It has no credibility. Our speech has to be there. We should say the right thing, and we should also act. Allah tells us this about da'wah in the Quran, by the way. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. هذه هي الدعوة. This is what da'wah is. You call to Allah and you act righteously. There's speech and there's action. Okay, so the first kind of people was common masses.